Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. G.C. Poonima, Professor and Head, Department of Anatomy, Mysore Medical College and Research Institute, Mysore. Today, I am going to discuss about the thalamus. So, before going into the discussion of the thalamus, let us go for a case study. A 16-year-old girl was taken by a mother to a pediatrician because she was rapidly losing weight and her eating habits had changed. Her personality also changed. After eating, she forced herself to vomit. On examination, there were signs of noticeable weight loss with hollow facial features, cold extremities, and low blood pressure. The case was diagnosed as anorexia nervosa. So, the objective of studying the hypothalamus is to describe the boundaries, parts, gross relation, major nuclei connections of the hypothalamus, epithalamus, metathalamus and subthalamus. Describe the connection of the hypothalamic nuclei with the pituitary gland and discuss the clinical anatomy of hypothalamus, epithalamus, metathalamus and subthalamus. So, hypothalamus is a part of diencephalon which is below the thalamus. This is where we see the thalamus. So, below the thalamus, below the hypothalamic sulcus, we see a hypothalamus. Anatomically, it weighs about 4 grams and 0.3% of the total brain weight. Physiologically, there is hardly any part of the body which is not influenced by the hypothalamus. So, the size and function is disappropriate. It is called as a head ganglion of the autonomic nervous system. So, the boundaries, it is ventral to the thalamus. So, this is the thalamus, ventral, this is the hypothalamic sulcus. This part is the hypothalamus. So, what are the boundaries of the hypothalamus? Superiorly is the hypothalamic sulcus, anteriorly is the lamina terminalis, then posteriorly it continues with the tegmentum of the midbrain, and inferiorly we have the optic chiasma, the tuber cinerum, the infundibulum and the mammillary body. So, within these boundaries encloses the hypothalamus. Then we have the subdivision. The hypothalamus is the hypothalamus is divided into number of regions or zones by the 2 lateral halves by the cavity of the third ventricle. For conventional teaching purpose, it is actually studied as a single structure, but basically it is a bilateral structure. The anterior column of the fornix, this is a fornix which you see, traverses the hypothalamus to reach the mammillary body, dividing the hypothalamus into medial and lateral zone. The mammillothalamic and the fasciculus retroflexus also lie in the same plane. The hypothalamus is divided into number of regions where the hypothalamic nuclei is being present. So, this is a preoptic region, the supraoptic region, this is the tuberoinfundibular region and this is the mammillary region. Thus, it is divided into 3 or 4 regions. Within these regions lays the optic nerve, preoptic nuclei. Then in the supraoptic region, you have the posterior nucleus, paraventricular nucleus and the supraoptic nuclei. In the tuberoinfundibular region, we have the dorsomedial and ventromedial nucleus, and lower down just above the infundibulum, you have the arcuate nucleus. Then in the mammillary region, we have the posterior nucleus and the mammillary body. So, these are all the hypothalamic nuclei, and what are its important connections, the afferents and efferents it receives is discussed next. So, the hypothalamus, the lines of communications, it receives and gives the information from the rest of the body through either through the nervous connections or the bloodstream or the cerebrospinal fluid. The neurons of the hypothalamic nuclei respond and exert their controls via the same routes. The CSF may serve as a conduit between the neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus and distant sites of the brain. So, the afferent connections of the hypothalamus can be from three groups. It is from the brain stem, or descending fibers from the forebrain can relay in the hypothalamus and information conveyed through the blood vessels. The mammillary peduncle is one which conveys the sensory impulses from the spinal cord and the brainstem, basically carrying the gustatory and the general visceral sensations. The next important fiber is the medial forebrain bundle, is a major pathway of the hypothalamus which connects the hypothalamus with autonomic and limbic structures. It also has afferent connections, the thalamus, the globus pallidus and the subthalamus. The efferents of the hypothalamus are the mammillothalamic tract. It is from the mammillary body to the thalamic nuclei. It can be the reticular nucleus of the thalamus or the centromedian nucleus or the ventrolateral and ventrolateral or the dorsomedial nucleus. It forms its connections. The mammallotegmental with a part of the reticular formation of the midbrain, it is the efferent connection. Then the descending fibers to the brainstem and spinal cord are the efferents of the hypothalamus. Then to the reticular formation, it is connected to the parasympathetic nuclei of the 3rd, 7th, 9th and 10th cranial nerves of the brainstem. It also has efferent from the preganglionic sympathetic neurons of the lateral horn T1 to L2 spinal segments, and also from the preganglionic parasympathetic neurons to the lateral horn of S2, S3 and S4, also the efferent connections with the fornix. The efferent also is connected to the pituitary gland through two tracts, that is the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. The hypothalamus has two nuclei, that is the supraoptic hypophyseal and paraventricular nucleus is being present. So, it forms what you call it as a supraoptico-hypophyseal tract is being formed. So, these secrete what you call it as neurosecretions. The neurosecretions are different from neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters are the acetylcholine, the epinephrine and non-epinephrine. But the neurosecretions are secreted and it is conveyed through the axons of these nucleus, paraventricular and supraoptic nuclei, and then it is conveyed into the posterior part of the pituitary gland. Here it is stored as a herring bodies. This is surrounded by the lush of blood capillaries or sinusoids. So, as and when the body needs it, the herring bodies will release these secretions, which are basically the ADH and oxytocin hormones directly into the blood vessels. So, this is the neurosecretions that is being released by the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract from these two nuclei of the hypothalamus. This is how it maintains its connection, the efferent connections with the posterior part of the pituitary gland. The next one is the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. So, the pituitary gland has two sets of portal plexus that is formed at the infundibulum, at the anterior pituitary gland is being formed. which is basically formed by the superior hypophyseal artery. The veins of that forms the first primary capillary plexus, the inferior forms the hypophyseal veins form the secondary capillary plexus within the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. So, again the nuclear components of the not only of the supraoptic and paraventricular, but all other nucleus, that is in the tuberoinfundibular region, the nucleus that is being present, that is the posterior nucleus, the dorsomedial, the dorsoventral part is being released. So, they will communicate through the primary and capillary plexus, the primary capillary plexus, and then it has a releasing and inhibiting factors that is being released into the anterior pituitary. So, if it is inhibiting factors, it inhibits the secretions of the following hormones that is stored in the cells of the anterior pituitary lobe, that is the pars anterior, or it can be releasing factors also. This is controlled by the tuberoinfundibular tract of the hypothalamus. So, the cells are which secrete the hormones and controlled by this tract are the follicular stimulating hormone, the luteinizing hormone, the adenocortico hormone, the prolactin and the growth hormone. So, that is the way the hypothalamus through its nuclear complexes control both anterior and posterior, but in two different ways. The summary: till now we have the hypothalamus region, which is a part of the ventral thalamus, the part of the diencephalon divided by the hypothalamic sulcus, which has two parts, the hypothalamus and the subthalamus. This is the pars dorsalis, which has the thalamus proper, the epithalamus and the metathalamus. The hypothalamus has got the following nucleus in the following regions, that is a preoptic nuclei, then we have the anterior nuclei, paraventricular nuclei and supraoptic nuclei. We have in the tuberoinfundibular region, you have the dorsomedial and ventromedial nucleus. Then in the mammillary region, we have the posterior nucleus and the mammillary body is being present. So, in the next part of our discussion, we have the functions of the hypothalamus. It plays a very important role in controlling the many functions of the vital organ, so for the vital survival of the organ. So, most of the functions it is controlled by the hypothalamus. So, when we come to the endocrine functions, where it has a direct effect on the releasing and inhibiting hormones on the anterior pituitary. The neurosecretion from the supraoptic and paraventricular for the release of the vasopressin and oxytocin. The anterior and medial, it has in the group, it has preoptic and supraoptic nuclei, which controls the parasympathetic activity, the entire body on the cardiovascular system, on the respiratory system, and on the gastrointestinal system. So, there can be diminished heart rate, fall in the blood pressure, constriction of the pupil and the increased paralysis. So, the posterior and lateral part has a sympathetic effect. So, there is enough the same organs on the cardiovascular, the respiratory system and the gastrointestinal system. There is an increased heart rate, the respiratory rate and dilatation of the pupil and diminished motility of the GIT secretions. So, these are some of the functions of the hypothalamus. So, the hypothalamus not only controls, it also controls the food and water intake by the laterally and medially placed nucleus. This is called as the satiety center, where there is a satisfaction of after consuming the food, or the water intake is also being controlled by the hypothalamus. It also has a function in controlling the sexual behavior of an individual, and through the anterior pituitary, the reproduction is also controlled. This is to the tuberal region. The circadian rhythm of the biological clock, the cyclical rhythm is being of the body is for 24 hours is managed by the hypothalamus. The various expressions of emotions, fear, rage, aversion, pleasure and reward are some of the emotional fear, this thing which is controlled by the hypothalamus. So, thermoregulation, the rise in the body temperature and the hypothermia is controlled by the anterior and posterior nucleus of the hypothalamus. So, these are some of the functional. So, the overall all the functions of the body is controlled by the hypothalamus. The next is a blood supply. Hypothalamus is the region which is supplied, it is in the submerged part of the cerebral cortex. So, the arterial supply will be from the anterior cerebral artery, the middle cerebral artery and posterior cerebral artery, which gives central branches, cortical branches and choroidal branches. So, the anterior part of the hypothalamus, the central branches of anterior medial group of anterior cerebral artery is supplying, whereas the posterior part of the central branches of the posterior medial group from the posterior cerebral and posterior communicating artery is supplying the hypothalamus. The lesions. Now, coming to the various lesions of the nucleus and how it is affecting is the next part of the discussion. If there is a lesion in the preoptic nucleus, there can be sexual dimorphism with an irregular menstrual cycle and loss of libido. The anterior nucleus, there is heat loss center, then there is hyperthermia of the body. The posterior nucleus, there is a heat raised center which is hypothermia. The lateral nucleus is the hunger center, is where if it is affected, it leads to anorexia and emaciation. The medial nucleus is a satiety center which affected leads into obesity. The mammillary body, which is mainly for the recent memory, the Wernicke's encephalopathy. Then the supraoptic nucleus, the ADH has been released. If it's affected, leads to a condition of diabetes insipidus. So, these are all the various nuclear lesions, how it can be represented and what are the effects on the body is being noted. So, the next, coming back to the case study which we had presented in the earlier part of the discussion, we will discuss about that case. The 16-year girl was taken by a mother to the pediatrician because she was rapidly losing weight, her eating habits had altered, her personality also changed. After eating, she forced herself to vomit. So, what are the signs of the weight loss was noticeably seen with hollow facial features, extremities were very cold with a low blood pressure. The case was diagnosed as anorexia nervosa. So, what we have here, which are the nuclear component that is being affected, the eating center here lesion has been occurred. So, when we go back to this slide, we have the lateral nucleus which is the hunger center. So, this is suppressed, there is a lesion over here leading into a condition called as anorexia, and then the suppression of the medial nucleus. The medial nucleus is not so this thing. So, the main effect will be the lateral nucleus lesion has occurred leading into the condition of anorexia, and also the cold extremities. Hypothermia is also been seen in that case. So, leading into the changes in the temperature regulation and low BP was this thing. So, the case was diagnosed as anorexia nervosa. The next is the clinical anatomy is the diabetes insipidus, where there is an impaired secretion of the antidiuretic hormone because of the lesions in the supraoptic and paraventricular tract. Features are polyuria, where the large amount of urine is passed with a low specific gravity, and polydipsia because of the increased water intake. Then there is another condition called as craniopharyngioma, which is a congenital tumor from the remnants of the Rathke's pouch. It is a supratentorial tumor in children. It is a benign tumor which compresses the optic chiasma and the hypothalamus. It represents as a bilateral hemianopia due to the pressure on the optic chiasma. The various hypothalamic syndromes are present, like the weight gain, where there is obesity because the medial nucleus has been affected. So, there is no control in eating, leading into obesity. The thermoregulation center, the medial and lateral nucleus is also been affected. So, there is a disturbance in the temperature regulation. So, what we have here is the hypothalamus, which is a part of the diencephalon. These are the following nucleus that is being present: the preoptic nucleus, the supraoptic, paraventricular, and the anterior nucleus. Then we have the medial dorsal and posterior dorsal and arcuate nucleus, the posterior nucleus and the mammillary nucleus or body. These are the nuclear components of the hypothalamus. The next one is the effect of the hypothalamus nuclei, especially the tuberoinfundibular region. This region, the nucleus, is affecting the anterior pituitary. It has releases the releasing inhibiting factors and the releasing factors from these nuclei and controls the secretion of the hormones from the anterior pituitary. Then we have the supraoptic and paraventricular nucleus, which controls to the hypothalamic hypophyseal tract, controls the release the neurosecretions which are stored in the herring bodies at the end of the axons of these nuclei, and it is directly released into the blood vessels. So, this is about the hypothalamus, the nuclear component, and how it has got an different important connections with the pituitary and overall functions affecting the whole functions of the body. So, it is an important autonomic nervous system, integral part of the limbic system, maintains the water balance, regulates the thirst and heating behavior, and also the gastrointestinal tract motility, and it maintains the body temperature and the activity of anterior pituitary gland. The neuroendocrine cells of the hypothalamus control the pituitary gland through the hypophyseal hypothalamic tract through the secretions of antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. So, the next part of the discussion is a metathalamus. So, this is a part of the dorsal thalamus. It are the rounded elevation. This is the thalamus which is present in the posterior part of the posterior-most part of the thalamus. The pulvinar part continues over here. There are two rounded elevation that is present. This is a part of the dorsal thalamus. They are the third and fourth order neuron, so relay stations for visual and auditory impulses. So, this is the lateral geniculate body and this is the medial geniculate body. So, this medial geniculate body is the aggregation of neurons, act as a third order neurons for the auditory pathway. So, from the superior olivary nucleus which is situated in the pons and medulla, so the axons from here are relayed in the inferior colliculus from here, and also the fibers of lateral lemniscus which contains the crossed fibers. Then it is relayed, both the fibers are relayed in the inferior colliculus, which forms the second order neurons of the auditory pathway. From here, the axons of the inferior colliculus through the inferior brachium is relayed in the medial geniculate body. So, the axons from the medial geniculate body, it becomes a third, sometimes we call it as a fourth order neuron of the ascending pathway of the auditory pathway, and it is relayed in the superior temporal lobe of the cerebral cortex, area number 41 and 42, through the thalamus, called as the acoustic radiation. So, this is where the medial geniculate body is situated, forming one of the order of the neurons in the ascending pathway of the auditory impulses. So, here it starts as a spiral, the cochlear nerve is being formed from the internal here. So, this will relay in the spiral and finally comes in the medulla to relay in the superior olivary, the nucleus, which is at the pontomedullary junction. From here, the ascending tracts begins as a lateral lemniscus. They can be crossed and uncrossed fibers passing through the midbrain, relays in the inferior colliculus at the level of the midbrain. Then the fibers from here relay in the medial geniculate ganglion, which is situated in the posterior most aspect of the thalamus, and then relayed in the primary auditory cortex of area number 41 and 42. So, this is where the medial geniculate body is present, and this is its important role. Then the lateral geniculate body that is seen, it is also a part that is seen in the posterior most aspect of the thalamus behind the pulvinar. It is made up of, the neurons are arranged here in 6 layers. So, the 6 layers is what it receives the crossed and uncrossed fibers from the retina. So, and the optic tract. So, this is the optic chiasma. Then the optic tract is formed. The optic tract contains the uncrossed and crossed fibers of the opposite side, and it is relayed in the lateral geniculate body. The lateral geniculate body, which has 6 layers, the uncrossed fibers relay in the second, third and fifth layers, whereas the crossed fibers relay in the first 4 and 6th layers. So, the main function is to, so the in different quadrants, so the peripheral retina is relayed, so this peripheral part of the retina in the medial part, and the lower quadrant is in the lateral part. The efferents from the lateral geniculate body is projected into the primary visual cortex, which is the area number 17. So, this is the lateral geniculate body, the optic tract. So, from the retina, these are the fibers they are coming. So, it finally goes into the optic radiation through the thalamus as a optic radiation into the cerebral cortex of occipital lobe, area number 17. So, the summary, so this is the medial and lateral geniculate bodies acts as a relay station for auditory and visual pathway. Then we come to the next part of the discussion is the epithalamus. It is situated in the posterior boundary. This is the third ventricle. So, this is the posterior part of the third ventricle. So, what are the components of the epithalamus? It is a part of the dorsal thalamus. This is a hypothalamic sulcus, the thalamus. So, dorsal thalamus, it becomes a part of that. So, these are the components that is seen. That is the habenular commissure, the pineal gland and the posterior commissure. So, these are the constituents of the epithalamus. So, what are the functions part of this? The pineal gland is also called as the epiphysis cerebri. This is a pineal gland that is situated, this is the thalamus that is being seen. So, it is a midline cone shaped reddish grey structure, which is about 3 into 5 millimeters between the superior colliculus below the splenium of the corpus callosum. The entire body is 8 millimeters. It has two stalks, superior and inferior, and the third ventricle recess enters into the pineal gland as a pineal recess. It is formed. The two stalks which is superior are continuing with the posterior and the habenular commissures. So, this is where the pineal gland is being present, is a cone shaped structure that is seen. So, in the lower animals it is presented by two parts, an anterior part and a posterior part. The anterior part is called as a pineal eye or the parietal eye, the posterior is a glandular part. But in humans, the posterior part is persistent, the parietal eye has disappeared. It is a neuroendocrine gland made up of parenchymal cells, that is the pinealocytes, and the neuroglial cells with a rich network of blood vessels. It receives the nerve supply from the postganglionic sympathetic fibers which arise from the superior cervical ganglion. So, the main function of the pineal gland is being basically poorly understood, but in the recent investigation, it is shown to have a neuroendocrine function. It exerts its influence on the preoptic and hypothalamic neurons through the CSF or through the blood vessels. It is anti-gonadotrophic in function, suppresses the gonadal development before puberty by inhibiting the gonadotrophic releasing hormone from the anterior pituitary. But after puberty, this pineal gland involutes and the gonadal development starts. This gland, by various recent investigation, it is shown influenced by the light, because the anti-gonadotrophic activity is highest in the dark and lowest when exposed to light. So, in this gland functions, there is a neuronal input which is exogenous factor such as the light to the endogenous glandular factor where it releases the hormones. So, the hormones released by the pineal gland is the melatonin. The other part of the pineal gland is the habenular nucleus, which is a small group of neurons situated in the posterior and medial aspect of the thalamus. It receives afferents from the amygdaloid body, hypothalamus and hippocampus, gives efferents to the interpeduncular nucleus. Some fibers of the stria medullaris thalamus cross the midline and reach the opposite habenular nucleus, thus forming the habenular commissure. The main function of the commissure with the nucleus and its connection forms a part of the limbic system, whereas the basic emotional drives. So, the habenular commissure connects the two habenular nuclei passing through the superior stalk of the pineal gland. It acts as a nodal point for the convergence of the basic emotional drive and sense of smell. So, the posterior commissure is a composite group which forms a part of the inferior stalk of the pineal gland. Composite bundles of fibers connects the medial longitudinal fibers, interstitial nuclei of Cajal, superior colliculus, pretectile nuclei and the two posterior thalamic nuclei of both the sides. The main function of this posterior commissure is a consciential pupillary reflex. So, clinical anatomy of this epithalamus in this region, lesions of the pineal gland can lead into precocious puberty. Sometimes there is a calcification of the pineal gland is demonstrated radiologically because it will start involuting before the onset of puberty. So, that is why it gets calcified sometimes. It is useful to identify the shadow of pineal gland to detect the shift in the brain structures from midline due to some space occupying lesion. So, this point becomes very important. If the posterior commissure is involved, then it leads to a decreased consensual pupillary reflex. So, the summary in the epithalamus includes the pineal gland, the habenula nucleus, the habenula commissure, the posterior commissure which lay in relation to the posterior part of the roof of the third ventricle. The other part is the subthalamus. It is a structure is very complex. It is a part of the ventral. It is also called as a ventral thalamus. So, this is the subthalamic nucleus that is present. It is between the thalamus and the tegmentum of the midbrain, medial to the internal capsule and globus pallidus. This nucleus is a biconvex mass of grey matter situated dorsolateral to the red nucleus and ventral to the zona incerta. This is a site for the integration of motor activity. So, the zona incerta is a thin lamina of grey matter which is seen in front of the subthalamic nuclei. Laterally, this zona incerta continues with the reticular nucleus of the thalamus. So, what is the grey matter and the white matter? It is basically the cranial end of the red nucleus and substantia nigra extend into the subthalamic nuclei and the zona incerta. The white matter that passes through the subthalamic nuclei are the cranial ends of all the lemniscus, that is coming from the midbrain. Then the dendrothalamic fibers and rubrothalamic fibers are also passing through it. So, it forms ansa lenticularis and fasciculus lenticularis together forming the subthalamic fasciculus. So, the lesions is basically concerned with the motor, it is a relay tension, most of the motor activity is controlling. So, the lesion in the subthalamic nuclei is called as hemibalismus. It is an irregular movement of the trunk, girdles and both the limbs are involved. The subthalamus has an inhibitory effect on the globus pallidus. So, the summary of the subthalamus is the nucleus receiving fibers from the globus pallidus from the red nucleus and then relayed into the reticular nucleus of the thalamus, thus controlling the motor activity from the red nucleus, the globus pallidus and also the dentate nucleus which is finally getting relayed in the thalamus and overall bringing about the motor integration. Thank you.